Hello and welcome, dear listeners, to this here rewatch or recap episode where we have watched all of season 4 of Black Mirror. I am your faithful host, Jorgen Smorgasbord.
And I am Jim with a G. And if I was not in such a cozy, loungy mood, you could get a really good rap out of doing the recap of the DewatchPod.
That's right.
Quick content warning from Editing Jorgen here. We discuss sexual assault in this episode, just be warned.
Now, Jim, before we did the sound check, and I can't really prompt you naturally to say this again, because it's been 2 sound checks ago.
Yeah.
But you were like, oh man, this was a rough one.
This was a rough one.
Thank you
for naturalistically prompting me. This is, I don't know, like, do you think this was a rough one, or do you think we are becoming rougher as people?
I was thinking about that, and let's dive into the deep end. What I think is that there are 2 possible things that are happening, which is we are making the mistake of thinking about Black Mirror, which makes it worse, or Black Mirror, this is just a really bad season.
I think there are 2 things going on personally, and I think there are essentially slight modifications of what you are suggesting. I think on one hand, this season contrasts quite sharply with last season. Season 5, not very good. Had 1 properly sincere episodes and 2 very stupid ones, but that were quite entertaining in their own right. And I think we had a lot of joy out of that. And even taking some appreciation in the one that actually tried to be genuine. This season, it's a lot of mid, it's a lot of swings and misses,
Yeah, and to pull back the curtain a little bit,
is that what a curtain sounds like?
Yeah, that's what a curtain sounds like. Like it sort of hangs a little bit, so it's like sort of jolting.
It sounds like a mouse doing little dashes across the floor for a piece of
right.
cheese.
That's
okay,
right.
Yeah, I can buy that.
Before we started recording this episode, we were like, what the fuck happened this season? Because to pull back the curtain even further, we had a bit of a hiatus mid-season because, dear listener, our microphone was faulty.
Yeah, but now we have a very unfaulty microphone that is notoriously bisexual, so we are really back in it. But yeah, I was also going to get back, because I think there's one more process, one more psychological process even. I think hope is dying. Because I think we always had with season 6 and season 5, I think we were these are the most recent ones. These really happened after Black Mirror got popular. Surely in its golden age, when it was still at its peak, it's gonna be good. Now we're getting into at least the boundaries of that supposed golden age, and we're man, all of these wonders of mankind that were built on the backs of terrible things and aren't that good or practical in and of themselves. This ziggurat of Black Mirror kind of sucks.
Yeah, now, before we look a bit too exposed, let me just close the curtain again. Now that we're decent. I fear so. I think we might be reaching, we might be starting to reach one conclusion that was always on the horizon, on the table for this podcast, which is that, oh no, Black Mirror didn't get worse.
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting side of having me here as the guide, having you here as the unwilling sacrifice, because I think I started watching around the time season 3 came out, either before, right before or right after. And then, back then, it was still, new and exciting. And now, the last decade or so has had a lot of cynicism, a lot of dark media, etc., etc. This thing doesn't really hit it doesn't really make splashes quite as much as it did back when it came out. And also, I was 15.
Yeah, I mean, I want to draw a parallel here, because are you familiar with the literary genre of YA?
I have come into contact with it unwillingly.
Now, I have a bit of a thesis, which is that young adult literature is, in part, exists as a sort of transitionary state for people who are not quite as wise to the tropes of literature in general. So you don't have to do all that, like, bait and switching and playing with tropes, because that's nonsense to them and just weird. So you have this sort of neat division where it's like, hey, this literature, it's fairly straightforward for those of you who are not tired of these tropes yet, because, until they're worn out, you can't play them straight. And it's in a similar way, science fiction, it has a lot of sort of, like, baseline ideas that are like, whoa, holy shit, what if aliens? What if the
consciousness
mind...
transfer?
Yeah, what if consciousness? What if the mind is not just, like, linked to the body, or maybe it is? What's that about? And all these things, I think, or, of course, the classic human popsicles. And you have all these concepts lying around. And Black Mirror is sort of the YA of basic sci-fi ideas, where it's like, hey, this is quite interesting. I wonder what's up here. This is making me think about things. And then when you look back at it, you're like, oh, I'm tired of these tropes. And I'm starting to see the seams a bit much here. And, I think I want to pitch that maybe that is the cultural place that Black Mirror occupies.
I can see it. Two things pop into my mind right away when you draw that analogy. I want to see Charlie Brooker write a YA novel.
I really do.
Yeah, I think it would be... I want to see him... Because we've not seen him tackle the, like, Disney original movies.
Yeah.
So, like, what would happen if we start branching him out?
Yeah.
Second thought, I want to see what happens when you give Black Mirror to TikTok. Because those people fucking love tropes. I think they might genuinely love it.
Maybe. I mean...
But yeah, I think there's also, like, an interesting thing that I like. We've talked a little bit about running our internal tallies of consciousness transfers, incredibly stupid twists, cheating, etc. I'm really curious if this is something that crystallized later in Black Mirror, aka from what we've seen so far, or if these things were already, like, dominant early in, like, seasons 1, 2, 3. I think that's going to be something interesting to look at.
Yeah. But before we get too deeply into the meta-analysis, there is one thing we should probably do for our dear listeners, in case they aren't binge-listening this season, which is remind them, as we had to be reminded, what happened.
Yeah, what did happen?
So,
like, not emotionally with the crew making this, you mean, like, okay, I see. Fair enough.
Yeah, no, so we started the season with USS Callister, which is the Star Trek riff, where the simulation is run by an evil nerd.
Yeah.
Who's a Philip Seymour Hoffman knockoff.
Yeah, and it's Star Trek, but it's horny and evil.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good. Like, that's getting close to a recap of all of Black Mirror in a very strange way.
Well, yeah. Unfortunately, of course, for Charlie Brooker, Star Trek has already done Star Trek, but horny and evil, which is the Mirrorverse. The second episode of the season was Archangel, which is where the mum reactivates the spying device for her daughter.
Yeah, it's coming of age story, but every person makes the worst possible decisions every step of the way.
Yeah, and we'll have more bad decisions later on.
Oh yeah, this one is honestly like a bit of a comparative drop in the ocean, and again, Archangel, we came out mildly positive on.
Yeah. Next up, we have Crocodile, which is the noir-inspired episode, where it's supposedly set in Scotland, very obviously filmed in Iceland.
Including a map of Iceland, which we'll never let them forget.
A topographical map of Iceland.
Oh, like, I know, we shouldn't get too deep into each episode, but I really wanted them to write in that, like, no, she works for the, like, Iceland department in Scotland. I think it would have been really fun to see them write around it. But yeah, it's big murder spree. it's very tragic, allegedly, to the point that it just becomes very funny. It
Yeah.
feels like fan fiction of
Yeah, and
something.
it's a lady who gets like talked to about, hey, we did this murder 20 years ago, and now you'll have to kill me over it. And then she kills a few people in trying to cover up her tracks,
Yeah.
which like kind of failing
Yeah.
on all fronts there.
Because of the hamster.
Yeah, no, and in the end, this was one of the first like real low point episodes, because they're like content wise, because there wasn't really much there.
Yeah. I think we struggled with it.
Yeah. Then Charlie Brooker did the thing that everybody who comments about these times does, which is do a dating app episode in Hang the DJ, which also really speaks to this season's tendency to have as little connection as possible between titles and episodes.
Though it is a good song. It is kind of a banger song, if I might say. But
Well-
yes, Hang the DJ is very much high up on the list of Charlie Brooker shoving a pipe into his own bike wheel.
Yeah, and yeah, it's the episode about dating apps, and the dating app is people in a simulation and seeing how much they escape from the simulation.
You know, this one might actually be the closest to a YA novel.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because it has the, like, two people get together, their
Yeah.
love is too strong for the system.
Yeah, I think we observed that at the time, probably.
Yeah,
We're smart like that.
Well,
Then the other complete dud, which is Metalhead, which is, the future is bad and there's robot dogs.
yeah, there's a cute robot dog.
Yeah, this
But it's
episode,
evil.
we remind you, is filmed in black and white, and it's very empty. There's not much to it. There's no meat on that bone.
Yeah, like, I was gonna say, the word that pops into my head is somber, but, like, it needs to have more for it to be somber.
Yeah, no, it's just like a lady gets hunted down by a robot.
Yeah, and it takes 41 minutes.
Yeah, and we're never getting that back.
We really aren't.
And finally, we
yeah.
finish off the season on a note, which is Black Museum.
Which,
An episode that is a lot closer in our minds than all the other episodes, because we recorded that after the microphone. We got the new microphone, so that was, 2 weeks ago?
something like that. And I also want to say it's probably closer to being a good episode, but then... Well, I mean, I suppose that's just the pattern of Black Mirror disappoints, but, like, it has genuinely very solid parts.
And it's a bit of a rough one to recap, but a lady gets shown the Black Museum, which is used to tie together a string of anecdotes which culminate in her murdering the museum director over taking consciousnesses hostage.
Yeah, this one is probably one we can't really recap effectively. You'll just have to watch. You just have to listen to the prior episode.
And yeah, that's the season. And let's see, let's look at themes here. We have the theme of nothing of note is said in the episode,
Yeah.
which is Metalhead and Crocodile,
Yeah.
which are just like pretty weak.
I think it's interesting because we have those two that are just nothing, genuinely. Like, the most you can say about the message is like, oh man, tech can sometimes cause bad things to happen. And we're like, yeah, we know.
Yeah.
We live in the age of AI. But secondly, I think it's interesting because comparatively, there's those two. And then there's at least a couple of episodes that do we have a theme. And then at the very last second, we say, nuh-uh, we don't. Such as Hang the DJ, which is like, oh man, you should, like, seek love outside of the system. Actually, just kidding. The system is great. It really works to put these two people together.
Yeah. And I guess now, despite our shared fears that we will think too much about the Black Museum, because of recency bias, but also because it's the most content there is in any episode.
And it contains the devil himself.
The very charming devil. I do think it is a great lens to think about Black Mirror with, because it has connected stuff. Specifically, it sort of contains a duality rather, that isn't usually present in Black Mirror. Because on the one hand, we have sort of the Black Mirrorverse, because this episode, by its nature, invites reference, right? It invites, like, oh yeah, there's a thing from another Black Mirror episode in the background.
Yeah.
And I think, like, we sort of have this as a general through line in Black Mirror, where it's, like, not really serious nods to the viewer, like, hey, remember this? What if this were all a shared universe? And, like, it is semi-seriously put into the writing, because I recall that the Black Museum also had, like, a reference that was just like, oh yeah, no, it's like that other Black Mirror episode.
Yeah, I think you're thinking about the one. I think they have the machine from USS McAllister that is used for the incel nerd to make people.
No, I was thinking about now this is the maybe the one episode of Black Mirror that we haven't spoken about that I have seen, which is the consciousness uploading episode San Junipero.
Right. Yes.
And that episode is just sort of more or less canon in.
Yeah, they do indeed reference it. That's a good point.
Yes. So in that, there seems to be, like, a bit more, like, substance to, like, this sort of idea of a Black Mirror episode, where, like, some, but not all of, like, these episodes are real and connected, right? And sort of in contrast to that, we have the episode itself, which is thematically connected stories that sort of play on different sides of the same idea. And I have to say, one of those speaks more to me than the other.
Which one would that be, Jorgen?
It's the one that has any interest in themes.
Yeah, I think Black Museum is, like, we shan't get into it too much, but I do think it is kind of interesting to look at it and then to stretch that out to the rest of the season, right? Because, like, Black Museum is very interested in, like, voyeurism and enjoyment of others' pain. And sure, this season has a lot of pain, but, like, does it? Like, does it have that much to be like, yeah, this is the primary draw? Like, Hang the DJ is downright optimistic, for example. Like, USS Callister has a very, like, cathartic end.
Yeah.
Archangel is all about, like, concealing pain. Like, it does feel strangely unconnected to its own season, which, admittedly, we are, on these recap episodes, we are trying to find the themes of entire seasons, and we are doing our darndest, but not always succeeding super ably. But I think it is, like, it is a strange place for Black Museum to exist.
Yeah. No, and yeah, no, I'm mostly bringing this up honestly to lodge my complaint that, like, the themes aren't, like, that thoroughly explored. Like, you know, the themes are kind of just things that we bring to the table most of the time, I feel.
Yes, we are doing our own The Curtains Are Blue, but I don't think that aggressively. I think Black Mirror, as a whole, like, as a show, and as this season included, very much wants to be taken seriously, very much wants to be analyzed, and very much wants to be serious TV, right?
Yeah, and I think it lacks focus.
It certainly does.
And this episode reminds me of that thoroughly. And yeah, no.
But it is interesting, right? Because, like, I feel like seasons 4 and 5, okay, most of season 4 is, like, really where Black Mirror feels like it's lost the plot a bit. Like, in the sense, like, we have Rachel, Jack, and Ashley too, right? That one, certainly out there.
It dominates my mind to this day. Like, I have trouble thinking about this season because it's under the shadow of the one, like, actually, like, I was looking back at season 5, like, all those episodes are more memorable to me than anything in this season.
Yes, for sure.
With maybe the exception of Black Museum, maybe.
Yeah, I think that is definitely true. And I think, like, for maximum curtain pushing back, do the sound. Thank you. We have actually rewatched Rachel, Jack, and Ashley too with a mutual friend. Well, you were sick. I have watched it, and I was like, man, this is like just as dumb on the second review. But yeah, like it is really interesting. Just to me, like how like season 5 and 6 comes out as downright like laser focused compared to season 4. Like
Yeah.
Even like Striking Vipers has something it's going for about like the alienation of like sexuality, blah 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 blah. And then there are multiple episodes in this season that just feel like they do nothing.
And they're not funny either.
No, like Hang the DJ is fun, I want to say.
Yeah.
I think it's an enjoyable watch, but it is one of those things where like I almost want to draw the comparison to young adult stuff again. In this sense, just in a structural sense of like, okay, it's hitting point. It's hitting like, okay, we're building up romantic chemistry, we're building up like the separation, we're building up the reconciliation. But there's nothing beyond the structure. Like, it's fairly well executed structure, but there's nothing beneath it. In the same sense that like YA dystopias are just the government. And then like we leave it at that. And I feel like that's kind of also the same thing with something like Metalhead, right? Like, it's a scary robot. Ain't that messed up? Wouldn't it be fucked up if robots hunted humans? Oh man, we really came up with a novel sci-fi idea here and said something about it.
Yeah, no, and like what I'm starting to realize about myself as a viewer is that I was righteously outraged at 2 times this season, I want to say. First at USS Callister, and second at the Black Museum. Now at the Black Museum, I stand by both of these, because USS Callister is sort of like, hey, isn't nostalgia for suckers? But then it's like taking like a at the time very progressive property and being like, hey, wouldn't it be fucked up if there was sexual assault in this?
And I think also like there's an additional point here of like one that has genuinely stood its time as being thought-provoking.
Yeah, and well, to a degree, of course.
Well, yeah, for sure, but like
Yeah.
it's not just like, it's not complete trash, I guess.
Yeah, and we also have the Black Museum, which sort of like tries to top off its like sort of rambling story with like, hey, racism is bad, right? And then just like proceeds to be like unpleasantly voyeuristic.
Yeah,
And sort of trot that out as like, hey, this episode means something, we fucking swear.
I really feel like season 4, like, it's really coming to me now, it feels like the most pandering season so far, right? Like, it has so many, like, wouldn't it be bad if parents were overprotective? Wouldn't it be bad if, like, racism? Wouldn't it be, like, isn't dating apps annoying? Like, it's just like, yeah,
And
sure.
This is also the only one that, like, a fucking Metalhead fits into. Because it's like, oh man, it's like both a dig at, like, Boston Dynamics and Amazon.
Yeah, and it's also kind of like, you guys remember Terminator? This is kind of like that. And it's just like, I don't know, it's really interesting, because, like, I at least feel like, for all its faults, Black Mirror explores interesting topics, typically. Poorly, frequently, and insufficiently, and with a very basic view, perhaps. But I do think they genuinely get into some interesting stuff, and there have been some genuine, like, good episodes, right? Like Demon 76?
Something like that.
Yeah, the Demon number. Man, I should really, like, the one episode that we both agree is, like, genuinely very good. We should probably know the name, huh?
Let me just do a bit of scrolling here on Wikipedia. It's 79.
I know,
Unfortunately,
darn.
you lose a point.
I'm not a true Black Mirror fan. But yeah, like, it's really interesting, right? This one felt like like this entire season feels so bland, right? Like, it feels structurally there a lot of the time, sort of. Metalhead very excluded from this.
I mean, Metalhead only has structure.
I guess there's truth to that. Much like perhaps a robot. But yeah, like, I don't know. I think there's an interesting point here, because I don't think I've ever seen you, like, when we've been doing this podcast, season 4 has gotten you, like, you said it, like, righteously outraged. Like, even even Beyond the Sea did not get you righteously outraged. It just made you deeply disappointed.
Yeah, no, it was enervating. These were like offensive.
Yeah, and I think that's really fascinating. And I think there's some truth to that like just the sheer emptiness and the like pathos, as much as lacking as it is, but like the pathos of this season being like, shit, dude, aren't we presenting some wild stuff when we say that dating apps are bad?
Yeah, no, I guess this is like a very tepid sort of ripped off from the headline season.
Do you think... Okay, I might be crossing a line here. Do you think season 4 is the Banksy season?
I'm honestly not much of a Banksy head.
But just what I'm going for here is the like sort of tepid points made with a lot of like, aren't we being countercultural by saying this? Aren't we presenting this as something beautiful, overarching message?
Well, I would like to draw your attention to the 5th column on Wikipedia, which is the release time. Because this season was released on 29th of December 2017, whereas the previous season was released in October 2016. So, between those, we can basically say with some assuredness that when season 3 was produced, Donald Trump was not yet president of the US, and Brexit was not like present in the writing process. So I want to say that this season is kind of like it feels like a bit of a retrenchment. It feels like a retreat into like saying vapid shit because the world has suddenly become a lot more interesting in some bad ways.
I suppose there is some truth to that. This might actually, in a very strange way, be like comfort TV.
Yeah, and like, now I understand that this is sort of drawing a bit of a direct line, but we do have to remember who Charlie Brooker is, right? He is like a current events commentator. So like, of all people, like this hits him hardest. Like he's a media class guy. He's a current events commentator. He is a Black Mirror writer, right? And in all these things, like we suddenly have like history is starting again, and this time you can't turn away quite so easily because it's at home, right? So I think this is like there is a way to read this, and the writing process is like, hey, like I am overwhelmed and I don't know how to engage with the sort of very aggressive complexity and unpleasantness of the world right now. So I'm just gonna like pick up some topics that are vaguely Black Mirror-y and like slap down a season.
Yeah, I think there's probably also something of a point to be made that like, if I recall correctly, seasons 1 and 2 are like 3 episodes each. Season 3 is 6 episodes. And you can probably make a point just that like series 4 is very much where they have the like experience and time to really do make it into this like sort of crystallized structure, you know, like that'd be like, this is how you write a Black Mirror episode, you know, 2 people cheat on each other, commentate.
Was there much cheating this season?
I suppose I don't think we can count Hang the DJ, right?
No.
There wasn't any in Black Museum, I think. Nothing in... No, I don't think so, actually. That's remarkable.
Yeah. I know. I think cheating might be a bit too intense if we're judging this as the sort of retreat season.
I suppose. Yeah, there's an interesting point there. Like, there isn't that much pure relationship drama in the way that later season have it, right? Because
the big exception being Archangel, which is the episode we liked tepidly.
Yeah, but that one isn't like that sort of relationship drama.
Yeah,
right? Like we don't even get the mention of like a second parent. But yeah, like that one. God, Archangel is so fascinating to me because it's like it is structurally very there, but it actually feels like it's the one that has some amount of heart to it.
It is directed by Jodie Foster, I must remind everyone.
Oh, all right.
Let me quickly do some scrolling here.
Are you trying to find other Fosters?
I am trying to find directors. But it seems to me that the Charlie Brooker writes and someone else directs pairing is very much the norm.
But yeah, it is interesting because it's the one, like, Archangel does feel like the one that has the most interesting point to make. Like, it is still a bit basic to just be like, okay, being overprotective does not produce good results, but it does examine a little bit of like, well, why are people overprotective? Like, what?
And, you know, it takes a look at the technology enabling our worst impulses. And so it has, like, a lot of neat stuff there that doesn't, like, quite come across like that cogently. But, like, I think this episode, like, has, like, it feels different from most Black Mirror episodes to me, because it seems to me like it has a point, and it doesn't struggle in, like, having a point and struggles in getting across its point.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting episode to look at, right? Because it's like, it feels like the core is all there. It looks at, like, human impulses aided by technology into doing bad stuff, essentially, right? And I think it feels like it's the least ruined by its twist, right? And it doesn't have a strong twist, which is good. Genuinely, like, please do more of this.
Well, I mean, like, Metalhead doesn't have a twist either.
I debate that it does. It's just so stupid that it doesn't register as a twist.
I'll take that. That's fair.
I think there's arguably even two, but yeah, like, I think that's such an interesting thing though, right? Because it's like, it does try to say something. It does try to say something, and it doesn't get it across super well. But despite sticking to a pretty typical structure of like essentially like a coming of age movie, it does its job. It just needs to be a bit better at like pulling out its themes and pulling out its like what it's trying to get across.
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting in comparison to the entire rest of the season that does what it wants to do, but just has nothing at the core of it.
Well, I mean, I want to say that, like, Hang the DJ and USS Callister, like, are about stuff. They just, like, really flinch from, like, going down the... Like, they are, like, the most, like, traditional Black Mirror episodes to me, because they're like, hey, we have these interesting ideas, and now we're going to flinch at, like, thinking them to a conclusion. We don't want to, like, deliver on all these things we set up, right? Like those are just, like, they're kind of inoffensive, they're regular, they fail in the ways that we expect. So they're, like, actually, like, kind of out of step with this season. Because this season is all about, like, in its, what it actually contains, is all about, like, failing in surprising ways that are different from most of Black Mirror.
Yeah, I think most of the season is failing almost predictably.
Yeah.
And Archangel is failing with heart. Like, Archangel feels a bit like it could be like a student movie, right? Like, it's obviously better produced, I'm not disputing that, but like, it does feel like someone really thought about this, like, very intensely. Someone went to bed for like a month just being like, oh, and then this can be like that, and then just did not put the ideas on paper entirely properly.
However, also fully written by Charlie Brooker. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
But, like, categorizing a bit more, right? We have the two, like, traditional Black Mirror episodes. Then we have Metalhead, and in my mind, Crocodile, or, like, a pair, right? Because they're genre pieces with, like, sort of a twist tagged on at the end. But, like, it's not that Black Mirror. They just, like, replace a piece of the genre with, like, sci-fi, and then do the genre thing anyway.
Yeah, I'd say so. And I think Metalhead might not even be replacing a thing with sci-fi.
No.
Right? Like, I think horror sci-fi is very normal stuff. But, like, I'm not sure I would say they're on Black Mirror so much as they're just like, okay, what do people want from Black Mirror? They want misery porn, with all due respect. They want misery porn, they want technology being used for that, and they want some sort of twist. Like, those are the core ideas of Black Mirror in the most... I'm being very rude to the creators here, and I almost want to apologize, but, like, that is kind of, like, I think in a popular imagination sense, that's what makes Black Mirror.
The lowest common denominator.
Yeah, exactly. And this is where they went, we're going to focus on the misery porn.
Maybe. I mean, I do think they are still distinguished by the, like, genre thing, but, like...
Yeah, for sure.
Sure, they fit in the mold, I guess, in a bit of a larger sense. They just... I guess sort of what puts them apart for me is that they really don't they don't have the sort of traditional parading out of, like, interesting ideas. I guess, like, Crocodile has a bit of that, and it just...
That's...
I mean, it has the memory dredge.
Like, okay, yes, I suppose that's an interesting idea, but it's not used for actually discussing anything. It's just like, here's a neat...
Well, yeah,
here's a neat
that's
tool.
what makes it normal, though.
Yeah, I suppose. But, like, I don't know about that, because, like, I feel like Black Mirror tries. It does genuinely try to be like, here's a neat technology. Does it make sense? Maybe not. Maybe it does, on rare occasions. And we're going to use it to explore a little bit of the human condition or our potential future. And the memory dredge is the most, like, I don't think it needs to exist. Like, I think it's the most, like, this is a plot device.
I suppose.
Like,
yeah,
it's here to cause further misery.
It's surprisingly central to the plot for something, because, like, usually, like, you just, like, have stuff and it doesn't end up mattering and they don't end up engaging with it. But yeah, no, I guess they are primarily connected just by being, like, genre pieces.
Yeah, like, and I think the other part is just like something like take Hang the DJ as a counterexample, right? It has this, like, primary tech thing that's like, we have the Uber algorithm, right? That places people together with true love, yada yada yada. Eventually, after a lot of, like, working the kinks out, but it does want to say something about the nature of intimacy in, like, an automated age. If I'm being quite generous.
I mean, I wouldn't go so far as admitting that it wants to say something, but it's definitely interested in examining.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's maybe a fair line to draw in the sand. Whereas the memory dredge from Archangel, from Crocodile is just like, what if we could look into people's minds? Does that have any, like, privacy issues, or, like, do we need to think about
Guess
what that
not,
means?
anyway.
No, the memory dredge is here to show the lady committing murders and eventually going, guess I'm gonna kill this kid and still get caught by a hamster, which I think maybe that might end up being my Rachel, Jack, and Ashley too, because every time I think about that twist, I smile.
I'm glad you can take joy from such things.
You did not.
No.
I think you laughed in the moment, and then, like, the deep despair set in.
Like, it's rough, man.
I'm still to this day, I do not know, and, like, I genuinely don't think it is, but there's, like, a 10% chance to me that I'm like, maybe they were self-aware. Maybe they were like, oh man, we're gonna make a really stupid twist to poke fun at ourselves. But I do think it is genuine, because it's presented very genuine.
I don't know, the blind kid. But I don't want to get too into the weeds, because then we have to get into content warnings. Yeah. And I feel like so far we've managed to avoid the massive gore from the 2 very gory episodes.
That's true, yes.
But yeah, no, and I guess, like, if we go by the categorization of, like, very traditional episodes, sort of genre-leaning episodes, we do have kind of the odd ones out with Archangel and the Black Museum, and that feels true to me, because, like, they're both sort of, like, a bit odd. Like, they don't hang in with the rest of it to me.
Yeah, they do stick out the most to me in like a strange way. Like, because you can probably make a very strong argument that something like Metalhead is the most genre, or like the most type-breaking episode so far we've seen. But it doesn't...
This season, at least. I don't want to go too far down the memory lane.
That's very fair. But like, it doesn't stick out in my head as much, because it just... I don't know.
It doesn't stick out.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, well, that was 40 minutes. I could have spent that knitting or something, and I would have had a more meaningful discussion with the state of the world. But yeah, like, I do think there's something to be said for, like, Archangel and Black Museum, and they stick out in very different ways, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the interesting part, is that Archangel, Now, Archangel feels like there's a part of me that wants to say that this is like the best and the worst episode of the season so far, but like I know that's wild after everything we've said about like Metalhead and Crocodile.
I mean, they're just quite forgettable.
Yeah, I think maybe that's the point. But like I think Archangel is so like it feels so genuine, it feels so like heartfelt about like having a discussion about the difficulties of parenting and relationships and anxiety in the modern world, and then Black Museum is like racism. Psych.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to think about, like, Black Museum, right? Because, like, the episode is, like, racist, right? Like, the writing of the episode feels racist because it's like, hey, we're gonna pretend like saying racism is bad is serious social analysis.
Is that racist, or is it just like?
Well, it's. I think it's deeply disrespectful in its like lack of effort, and like it does just feel like hey, this is a cultural moment. Maybe I don't know, 20. It's hard to like place this one in time, but it is just like, hey, we're gonna say something, and the fact that we're saying it badly shouldn't impact the fact that we have said something, and that is good.
Yeah, it's interesting because this took a while, like, this took place like a good bit before Black Lives Matter and everything, like before George Floyd protests and everything. So it is an interesting point in time because obviously, like, yes, Donald Trump has been elected and everything, but it is before the like, I want to say that the catalysts of like Black Lives Matter and the really big discussions on police brutality.
Yeah, that's true. So this is like, I guess you could place this like in a weird tradition of like, sort of like writers start to be aware of race. White writers, of course, start to be aware of race and go like, hey, we should say racism's bad.
I think it's a really interesting point, right? Because this is like Donald Trump, where like a lot of the racism discussion is much more about like Hispanic people.
Yeah, and the Muslim ban, which is like very early in his administration.
So it's almost quite interesting where it focuses.
His first administration, we should say for clarity here.
Yeah, because we're in the.
Yeah.
Man, we started this podcast in a slightly better world, huh?
Well, we'll see.
we'll see. Anyway. But yeah, like, it is an interesting take, because, like, I think in my head, I almost categorize Black Museum as, like, complete bandwagoning, just because, like, we're watching this in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
Black Lives Matter feels like it's been there for a very long time, and, like, that discussion feels like it's been... And obviously it has been there for a very long time, just not maybe in, like, white
not in the
British...
not in Charlie Brooker's social circle.
Exactly, like, not in the white British writer... Surprisingly hard sentence to say for me for some reason, but yeah, like in that sort of social place. So is it like in hindsight, it is kind of interesting to think about that. Like, no, this wasn't like Black Lives Matter. You're right. Let me write an episode that like really gets to the point of racism.
Yeah, no, this is before like racism was being properly analyzed in the public sphere, and it's still not. But...
Like it's fascinating that this you could almost probably make an argument that Black Museum might be more like influenced by like Obama and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
it is on the tail end of Obama.
Yeah, and it must have been written like it came out at the end of 2017, but it must have probably been in writing for a while, right?
Yeah, no, so like, I guess it does just straight up fit into that pattern, and it sort of is offensive by virtue of that.
Yeah, I wonder if we, as very enlightened intellectuals that we are, I wonder if we watched this when it came out, we would have been kinder to the racism bit.
I mean...
Notably, I suppose we've never explicitly stated this, we are white.
Yeah, we're very white.
We're
Belgian.
Hey, you can't say that, don't dox me. But yeah, like it is interesting to look at from that perspective. Like, I don't know, like definitely I think if this came out in like 2021, I would I would have been a lot more brutal with it. This I don't know, like at least we can look at Charlie Brooker and go like, you did it, dude. You found out that racism is bad. But like it is interesting to think about like that it does. I suppose there's a point to be made that like it's talking about this like righteous anger and like punishment as like
was this episode transgressive for its time?
Man,
That's terrifying.
Yeah,
to
that's
think
really
about.
that's deeply saddening to me. But yeah, like it is talking a little bit about like this punishment as like this social outlet, right? Like as this like, hey, we all love seeing like vigilantes and like bad people getting their comeuppance. Do we think there might be a racial component to who gets seen as like a good victim for that sort of justice? And that's, I think you can tie that into like Trump and that sort of rhetoric,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, like it is. This honestly, I'm glad we brought this up because this has genuinely prompted some interesting
Yeah, no, I
analysis
think
of
like I think this season like is fascinating to situate in its time because
Yeah.
it is like aggressively apolitical for having been, or it's political but in such a weak way.
Yes.
For having been written in such a politically like tense time.
Yeah.
So it's like, so I guess Charlie Brooker is just like still on that like Obama era shit in this period of writing, and he's like, no, I'm doubling down on liberalism.
on what was radical liberalism at the time. Yeah, like it's I don't know, that's such a fascinating point of view because like I think maybe we forget that like even compared to like 2016, 2017, like the political rhetoric is a lot more violent these days, right?
Yeah.
And like I don't think we really like, man, like even the Muslim ban and stuff like that and like the threats of deportation were a lot milder back then.
I want to go a bit. I want to explore something, and I'm not sure if there's something here yet.
Mm-hmm.
But in the context of sort of the vague geopolitics of the season, under which the season was made, I'm so distinctly recalling that Archangel had this moment where it's like, oh yeah, no, this is banned in the EU already. Or I think, wait, no, was Archangel banned by the UN?
No, I think you're getting that confused with the Black Museum episode where they're like, yeah, like it's banned to put, like the UN banned putting consciousness in item. But yes, Archangel did also have that line where it's like, no, like this got immediately phased out in the EU, but it's still like legal here. Yeah, I think there's an interesting point to be made there that like, I do you think Charlie Brooker is having like the slightest bit of like, oh man, the Anglophone world is really like having a bad year.
Yeah, no, it's like, oh man, we really need some sort of regulatory power. Like it does sort of speak to the sort of radical 2017 liberal angle of the season.
Yeah, I could see it. Like that's fascinating. But like, I don't know. Do you think? I think in the spirit of looking at this from radical liberalism in parentheses 2017 edition,
We started trying to be charitable. Now we fall into this.
I think this is charitable. I think this is saying that for its time, maybe this felt more appropriate and more outspoken than it does now. But I think we're really gonna have to look at that again in the season 3 recap, right? So we're gonna have to think about this in comparison. But I want to say one thing, which is that like feminism, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh
right.
shit! He's
like,
not saying Jack.
Yeah, well, like McAllister, right? Is it
Okay.
called McAllister?
Yeah, USS McAllister.
USS McAllister, right?
USS
Because that's the
Callister,
point
right?
where they do make a point about like this guy is sort of an incel. What do you guys remember? Do you remember how like incel, like how well known was that in 2017?
Oh, this was past
Elliot Rogers.
Gamergate.
Right.
So.
Yes. Good point. But yeah, like I think it's interesting to look at, right? Because like the antagonist in USS McAllister very clearly like a strong incel, right? Like explicitly like sexually assaults his like female clones or cops or whatever you want to call them.
But at the same time makes them not have a genital.
Yeah, it's a very like I think we must have discussed like the Madonna whore complex in that episode, right?
I
Like,
don't think so.
Really?
Maybe.
Okay.
I think you might have referenced it actually.
but yeah, like there's a point there, and there's a point that like the women there are explicitly very subordinate, whereas like he like physically abuses like his male crewmates or whatever you want to say.
Big old McPoyle.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But yeah, like he very physically and like directly emotionally abuses them compared to like sexually abusing the women on the crew.
Yeah.
And you know, it is also like a kind of more on the horny side of episodes, I think.
I guess like using what I think now is apparently the most gainful filter we can apply to this season, which is when it was made. Like, placing this in the context of, like, post-Gamergate, like, post-Trump, like, oh, I see what he's getting at with the nostalgia shit. Right, this is, like, now, like, that is kind of, like, ebbing and flowing a bit more again. Like, it is currently, like, a bit on the rise to what success, who's to say.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, this was, like, just, like, past the peak, right? This was, like, roughly, like, this was, like, a while after Stephen Colbert had Anita Sarkeesian on.
Oh, Lord, yeah. Those are the days.
So, like, I guess you can very much read this as, like, far more specific than, like, a general commentary on nostalgia. Like, no, this is about, like, a very particular kind of nostalgia.
It's just
it's
poorly
about Gamergate.
Yeah, but it's a very poorly chosen subject matter for that. Like,
I mean, it is about video games.
Right, but, like, it's a video game that's, like... You know, it'd be like making one that was based on, like, Football Manager and being like, well, it's video games, but, like, obviously it's sports that becomes the center. You know what I mean? Like, this is still Star Trek. It's just technically, I guess, a Star Trek video game. I also want to say, I think the most distinctive part of Charlie Brooker, like, here's my imagination. He's sitting in his writing room. He types a specific word into his script, and he goes... God, I'm such a good feminist. And that is when the main character says pussy on screen.
This was, like, straight up, like, in the pussy hat era.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking. I
can't believe we have finally found the master key to the season, and it is the year 2017.
Yeah, like, it's fascinating, right? Like,
it all makes sense now.
I want to talk to, like, 2018 Charlie Brooker and be like, what do you think is the most revolutionary season you've done? And he's like, season 4, man. I said so much stuff there. And I went really out on a limb to comment on things.
Yeah.
Like, I think, I don't know, like, it's interesting because I'm trying to run through in my head. I don't know if there's any... Okay. I think if I'm thinking about the feminism route, the only other thing I can definitively think of, apart from having some female protagonists, but I honestly think that's not that uncommon for Black Mirror. But the other one I can think of is Hang the DJ, where women are allowed to be horny, and that's also a big step for 2017.
I mean, 2017 is just 2016.
Yeah.
Like, 2016 didn't end until 2019.
Yeah, I can accept that. I don't like it, but I can accept that. But yeah.
Like, it didn't end until, like, September 2019. Or whenever COVID showed up.
Yeah. But yeah, like, I think that's... Like, I don't think the feminism is that strong. It does seem like he condensed it into McAllister, right?
Yeah. Good lord.
No, it is called USS Callister, right?
Yeah, it is Callister.
Damn it, I keep adding the Mac. Anyway.
It feels natural.
It does feel really natural.
Oh, shit. It does have a co-writer, actually. I didn't see that before. But
he
doesn't have a Wikipedia page, so we're not going to delve into that, because we don't have a Wikipedia page to look at.
Wouldn't it be messed up if the co-writer was like an original Star Trek writer?
That would be a bit sad.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, like, people, like, have a bit of a complex about having been part of media that is now regarded as problematic, and they're like, I'm a sinner.
Yeah, I suppose.
I need to be redeemed.
I wonder if that is a part of why Charlie Brooker wrote that episode. Like, I could see him being a very big Star Trek fan back in the day.
Yeah.
Because he's like 50-something, right?
Well, he feels like it, yeah.
He strikes me as a 52-year-old, specifically.
Let's find out.
Oh, no. Oh, my God. I was 1 year off. He's 53.
He is 53 years old. Again, Jim loses a point.
What? No, come on. I feel like you didn't even guess.
That's right.
Centrism wins again.
Is not to play.
Damn it.
Well, centrism is having a bit of a hard time as well. But this was peak centrism.
This really was peak centrism.
Oh man, God.
You know what strikes me? I'm surprised there's no episode here where there's never a point, from what I recall, where someone is between like two extreme points and going like, what if maybe meeting in the middle is good and we should all think about unity?
I mean, genuinely, I do think Charlie Brooker is just genuinely not a centrist.
No, he feels like is it rude to call him a social democrat?
I think it's extremely accurate.
Yeah, like he feels like a centrist I can respect.
He's probably like to the left. He's almost certainly to the left of modern Labour.
For sure.
I mean, that doesn't mean much to be fair. But Jim, we've been recording for almost an hour.
Yeah, and
do we want to go a bit through our list of Charlie Brooker's foibles?
Okay, yes, absolutely. I would love to. So we wanted to confirm no cheating really. I think we've definitely at least broached the topic of stupid twists.
Yeah,
that's definitely a certainty.
Yeah, this season, it's got a weird relationship with its twist because some of them seem very much afterthoughts.
Yeah, there are times where it feels like they wrote the whole episode, looked at it and said, "Oh no, we're not being, people are gonna see the ending coming and it's gonna make logical sense. Let's throw something in." Yeah.
I think what's sort of strange is that we do have some, the twists aren't quite as intrusive this season, because
So
what I'm thinking about is that the twists are so tacked on that they don't really necessarily subtract from the meat of the episode.
Right, you're saying that Hang the DJ could be a good episode if you cut off the last 5 minutes.
Hang the DJ is actually the worst one to me.
Oh, okay.
No, what I'm thinking about is which one is it now? The
Crocodile?
Crocodile actually isn't a good example either. Because it is just so wild that it does end up causing a lot of damage.
Yeah. This is wrong time to bring this up. I wonder if Crocodile would have been a better episode, literally just cut out the section where, the police find out about the blind baby and the hamster. Just have it be, she murders a bunch of people, sits in, the school rehearsal crowd, and then you hear, heavy footsteps, maybe police sirens in the background. I think that would have been much more effective.
Yeah, ending. Or just, zoom in on her slowly as, there's a child's terrible rendition of whatever.
Yeah.
And we just get the sense that she'll keep killing or whatever.
Yeah, or, just the general paranoia settling in. I think that could have made for, some decently effective horror.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we have Hang the DJ, destroys its own meaning with its ending. Crocodile, completely meaningless but very funny,
and also it does make me think that this season has a new theme, or maybe in my mind, because and this is probably most evident in the last one, The Black Museum, which is its strange predilection for slapstick. Right, because Crocodile in my mind is the most charitable way to view that episode is a slapstick.
Dark slapstick.
Yeah.
I see. I could see that. But yeah, running through it, Metalhead arguably has 2 twists. Both of them completely shruggable, I would say.
I don't think we need to mention Metalhead ever again. There's
I think that's fair, yeah.
It's just so empty.
Yeah. You're not wrong. Maybe that's the one that should be mentioned as a student film, but in the sense of someone a bit sleep deprived, still a bit inebriated, going, "Dudes, what if there was a killer dog?"
We're getting off track because Metalhead is so
So bad.
Such a void.
Yeah. USS McAllister, does it have a twist? I don't think so.
I guess the twist is that they live.
Yeah, I guess so. I want to say meaningless, like maybe even destroys itself a little bit, but like,
Yeah.
but it doesn't. I don't
Yeah, no,
think.
USS Callister is strange because, like, it's a bit twisty, but it's just, like, generally strange. Like, it is like, USS Callister and Archangel are, like, the two more, like, straightforward stories.
Yeah, I suppose. And Archangel, I think, just straight up does not have a twist.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of, like...
And I think it's so much better for it.
Escalates a
Yes.
bit in the end, but, like, it doesn't twist. Like, you were a bit more taken aback by the end than me, because you were like, it's sort of like, I seem to recall you sort of seeing the sort of outburst of violence as a bit of a twist.
Maybe. I think I'll probably take that back. I think it escalates too much, but I do not think it's a twist.
Yeah.
So that one gets a passing grade on the on the foibles, I think.
Yeah. Not enough cheating either
Definitely
to
not.
hit that scale.
And then finally, Black Museum has a twist.
Yeah.
I know, I saw the face you made, and I agree, but like...
Yeah, no, it does. It is
it
a
does
twist
have a twist.
episode. It's like, I am his daughter.
Yeah.
Like, that's a twist. That's a proper twist.
And then I don't know, like it feels it's not a twist, I guess, but like the reveal that like, oh yeah, she takes the lady who got put in the stuffed monkey with her, and also her mom is in her head, just like the second short story. It's not a twist, but it does have the like, I don't know, I want to say that maybe this is another foible of Black Mirror's, where it's like it really wants to tie things together even when it doesn't need to.
I mean, I think there is, like, a very hard distinction to make between, like, the twist and, like, the bizarre ending flourish.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I think
Because,
the star
like,
ending flourishes.
Yeah, and, like, Crocodile is, like, really dancing on that line, too.
Yes.
Because, like, it's just so strange.
Yeah. I think there's a point there. But yeah, I like I said, I don't think we have any cheating in general. Like, there's no like big divorce thing going on. There's no like.
No, we have a guy though.
Yes, we have a guy.
At the last minute of the season, the most intensely shady guy hits the podcast.
Oh, are we speaking of the devil?
We're speaking of the devil.
What a dude. Yeah, like we were discussing it a little bit, and he is a main character, but he's also maybe the most that guy we've seen in Black Mirror so far.
This is an actor who, like, I am told, or rather, like, it is said, mythologically, that, a person will get, like, one line in a like a Law and Order episode or whatever, and then they will practice the shit out of that line to deliver it, and maybe they'll get spotted. And, maybe that produces perhaps a bit of a weird delivery, a bit of a strange energy.
Uh-huh.
And I think that this guy brings "this is my one moment to shine and be seen" to every single moment he has, even though he's a main character.
Yeah, I think I was gonna say that because it's not about a single line or even many lines. It's also him just kind of like, this is where I wish we did like a YouTube series instead of a podcast, because he makes so many good faces. Like, I want to put it in like a little. I should do that for a presentation night sometime. Just have like, here's a list of fun faces this guy made. Like, he has Matt Berry energy, and I think it's very good. I love him. He's my favorite.
Yeah.
I love the devil.
Yeah, no, he is our favorite actor this season, no questions asked.
Like, he's up there with the Striking Vipers cast. He's up there. I don't know, I almost want to say Macy Day, like the weird roommate who shows up in 2 scenes and then never exists again. But yeah, like, I don't know, apart from the devil himself, Satan, Lucifer, and such, I
think we had a bit of a shortage of guys.
Yeah. Oh, I wonder if that's do you think that's a symptom of radical liberalism too? That, like, he was so focused on, like, being he
doesn't let his petty nonsense into the show as much, because he's like, no.
I have to say mild stuff.
No, Mom, I need to post about moderate liberal democracy on the internet.
Man, I hope Charlie Brooker has a Reddit. I hope Charlie Brooker had a Reddit in like 2013.
Charlie Brooker is the most Reddit show writer there is in the world.
That's brutal.
I'm not wrong though.
The other day I said someone had like a Tumblr sense of style, and you treated it as like the worst insult, and you're just tossing out he's the most Reddit writer out there.
Here's the thing. I don't think
come back from that.
I don't think it dominates his personality entirely.
It's more of an undercurrent.
It's a heavy undercurrent.
It's one of those what's called riptides or something. I don't know water enough, but there's.
Yeah, no, like, if you dig anywhere, there will be a well. You'll be like, ooh, this water has washed out some caves. And that's why it's all hollow.
I really hope we continue this strange river metaphor future with Charlie Brooker. But yeah, like, I guess I was going to say one thing about the cheating. There is the second episode of Black Museum, which has consciousness transfer cheating.
Yeah, that was
weird.
Yeah, no, so he does get it in there a little bit.
Yeah,
like some truly strained relationship dynamics that could have been like sick to look at, like in a more extensive fashion.
Yeah,
but he does not care about them. He cares about the stupid fucking monkey. I feel like the stupid fucking monkey is a twist in its own right.
Well, like I think another foible of Charlie Brooker and of Black Mirror as a whole is like. I'm going to stop using the word misery porn because I don't think it says enough. Just like cybernetic torture, like finding ways to be like, here's hell digitally, Yeah. Like it happens to the entire USS Callister episode is about.
That's true. That I think we're a bit late in the recapitulation now, but I do think that is just like maybe one of the stronger running themes of the season. Just like. Because, like, that is just straight up, like, I forget if I was saying this, like, so directly, but, like, that is, like, what, like, one of the things that ties together Black Museum, and it's just like, hey, here's some cornucopia of, like, technological ways to produce hell.
Yeah, I think we discussed it a lot in that episode.
We have hell is other people, we have hell is getting tortured with the electric chair.
Hell is addiction to pain in this case, but like...
Yeah, and we have Callister, which is hell is
other people
your
plus,
boss.
Yeah.
Hell is your boss having too much power.
I mean, I think even...
Join a union.
I think even Archangel and Hang the DJ, you can make something to be said about that, right? Like as being like trapped in not in dystopia, but in these like mid experiences, trapped in safety for Archangel and trapped in like this inoffensive world.
Yeah, I think with Archangel it is like a bit more of a side note because it's got a stronger identity, but with Hang the DJ it's like really central.
But yeah, like I think that is a strong foible of his, and I think we have seen some of it in previous seasons, but I think, if I recall correctly, I think we're going to see a lot more of it coming up.
And I guess, I mean, you say this is a foible, but, like, we don't have that much technological hell in the seasons after this, chronologically.
Yeah.
So, from my perspective, this does actually seem like a bit of a seasonal theme, which, props to Charlie Brooker. You got at least one down.
Yeah, I wish there was something more to say about it, and then ain't this fucked up?
Yeah, no. I guess that is something we will see if that is just like something that is one of the undercurrents of Charlie Brooker. Like, oh man, I'm gonna go for like a bit of a long shot here. But coming through this TV show, the direction that I have, I will lodge now a guess that what we're going to uncover as we pass through it further in time is that we started at, ooh, look at these digital hells, right? And then that is sort of that is like an undercurrent he has that in like seasons 5 and 6 turns into the less like intense, but still like very strong undercurrent of this shit sucks, man. Right?
Right.
Because we don't have, I don't think, the digital hell sense quite so obviously.
No, I think at the closest we get is something like Striking Vipers, where it's more like, this is messed up and vulgar, but not hellish.
And we don't have that much interest in vulgarity this season.
I don't think so either. No, I don't think it really. This season doesn't examine social interaction that much.
Yeah, there's like a bit of that in Black Museum, where
and I would
it's
say
like,
Hang the DJ as well. Like it kind of looks at like dating as kind of like vulgar, right? Like it has that's the like, hey, the app said we should be together. Would you like to bang?
Yeah, no, that's quite interesting.
Yeah, I think there is some stuff, like, it's taken us a while in the mines to get this out and refine it, and the ore isn't that pure, but we've got something. We can sell it off be a trustworthy copper merchant.
That's right. Yeah, no, I think like if this proves out, and I'm just going to speculate for a second that it will, we do sort of have a shift from like the more radical, a bit more foolhardy, like, ooh, we're in hell, to the more resigned, like, this shit sucks and is gross.
I like the term foolhardy. I think that's going to get a lot of use.
Yeah, but yeah, that makes me fear, because that makes me think Black Mirror is going to get actually worse as we get to the earlier seasons.
Uh-huh. I think I must have asked this before, but do you think Charlie Brooker is aware of Roko's basilisk?
He's on Reddit.
Oh, yeah, true. Ooh, we just established that he's on Reddit now? Okay, fair enough.
That is, I mean, if Charlie Brooker isn't on Reddit, I will eat a shoe or something.
Okay.
You know, a leather shoe so I don't poison myself.
Yeah, thankfully we can do this, like, on a podcast, so you can just make noises. Sorry, I probably shouldn't have done that.
I mean, unfortunately, it is unfalsifiable that he's on Reddit, because he probably has a burner, and he doesn't seem that stupid. But
yeah, fair enough.
if we get, so I will never eat that shoe because it's unfalsifiable. Get fucked. However, if he is on Reddit, I will have been right provably, and that will speak to my credibility. But if I'm not proven right, obviously that won't have any impact.
Have you ever
because
thought
I
about...
can still be proven right later down the line.
Have you ever thought about getting into like game theory?
I thought about becoming Nostradamus too.
It's very sensible. I'm sure you and Charlie Brooker share that.
I mean, actually, no. I know we are getting a bit deep in time, but this is a
recap episode.
This is a review episode. There is another foible, or well, I guess this one I don't even want to call a foible. There have been times in our previous season and his later seasons where I was like, hold on, this man has kind of his pulse on the time, like on like the finger of the time, you know, with like, hey, people are gonna want to AI generate Netflix,
yeah,
right? Which is like complete nonsense, like
but
on the face of it. But
like
he just has like read some TV excerpts to utter filth. And he's like, no, that's what these idiots want. And do we have any moments like that in this season?
I genuinely, the messed up thing, I think the closest thing is Black Museum, and I hate to say that, but I do think on some level, like, there's a point about, like, the sort of, like, and okay, you know, the more I'm thinking about it, the less people like retributive justice, even vigilantism and such. Maybe that's less of a hot take, but
yeah, that doesn't seem that prescient, actually.
But I do think there's something to be said for, like, okay, see, now I'm getting into the point where it could have been, but, like, I think if you linked it into, like, social media, it could have been more prescient, right? Because I'm thinking about some, like, TikTok stuff that, like, where someone is like, oh, that guy is cheating, and then there's, like, a fucking hate movement of millions of people who are, like, trying to do body language and all. Like, there's stuff like that. But yeah, now that I say it, I'm really giving him a lot of credit here.
Yeah, no, I do think, and now we're coming a somewhat circle now. I do think, like, by virtue of being the most 2017 season of Black Mirror, the season does suffer from being like, despite not wanting to commentate quite directly, it does end up being, like, the most trapped in its time season.
Yeah.
And thereby also becomes the least prescient season,
I think...
so far at least.
Yeah, I think it's... The way I would put it is that I cannot blame anyone who exists in the year of our Lord 2017 from having difficulty predicting the future. Like, that just seems very rude.
Yeah, no, the future has just started existing again because
Yeah.
time had been stopped. History was
Yeah.
over.
Yeah, exactly. So we have things going on. So I don't want to blame him for that. Honestly, like, maybe my second pitch, and maybe this one will go over better, would be Archangel. Specifically because of what we discussed in that episode about its, like, look at, like, technology enabling the worst impulses of, like, mental disorders, right? Like, in this case, anxiety, but we talked about,
I wonder if air tags being used for stalking was, like, already a thing then.
I wouldn't be surprised, yeah. And I mean,
Probably
like,
not,
at the end
no.
of the day, that's just, like, you can... Trackers have existed for a long time,
Yeah.
right? But, like, there's that, there's, like, you know, eating disorders for, like, calorie counters, there's, like, all sorts of, like, social media to be used to validate your depression and be like, no, yeah, the world is actually terrible. Like, there is something to be said for that. Yes, it's pulling a bit on that thread, but I think it is, like, a genuine thread that is there, right? Like, it's this woman
Yeah.
struggles with anxiety about her child. Very normal. That happens to a lot of parents,
Yeah,
I'm
no.
told.
See, I want to say that, like, what if technology enables our bad impulses is a very powerful theme to explore deeply, but I think it's not prescient because, like, that's just a good thing at the time and also now, right?
Yeah, I think so as well. I think it's on the tip of
Yeah.
being a little bit prescient.
I think it's prescient, but not by, like, in a weird way. It's just like, oh yeah, no, this is a good, well thought out line of thought.
Yeah, because, like, if we're looking at when Jonas Awful was written and stuff like that, that's when generative stuff like generative AI was just beginning to appear,
Yeah.
and he actually managed to predict, like, this is it. But, like, with something like Archangel's, like, technology allowing us to become mentally unstable, like, that was happening at the time.
Yeah, no, that's just, like, strong analysis of a current thing. That's not,
Yeah.
like, really hitting the ball in a quite surprising way.
No, I agree with that, but I think it's probably the closest one I
Yeah.
can think of. But yeah,
Yeah, no.
I don't think this was a particularly prescient season.
Yeah, no, this is this is the fog of the fucking present.
Yeah, which I cannot blame him for.
Yeah.
It is a shame to see it though, because, like, he has done some good predictions for sure.
I mean, it does, like, make me think, because I think I was, like, harping on this a bit with the last season, that, like, he seemed, like, to be quite apolitical, and not, because I think the next season was 2018, so, like, it, like, just, like, straight up a year later, so, like, still in that, like, so that season was also from 2016, because, again, 2016 ends
Yeah.
in 2019. So I think, like, we can just see, like, him going, like, you know what? I think I missed by being too much in the present, so I'm going to pull back and be a bit more general. Like, I think that's just, like, a very straight up thing I can read here, and I think I'm right.
I think that's a beautiful point to maybe even end this episode on.
So yeah, no, as we find out, Charlie Brooker does recover from being stuck in the present a bit too much. And God, wouldn't it be very funny if season 7 of Black Mirror was actually good?
Yeah, like, I've been thinking about season 7, right? Because I think we got the official, like, announcement that, yeah, like, season 7 is coming, I want to say next year, maybe even. Like,
Hopefully not in December.
yeah.
We'll run out of stuff to pod by then.
But I was gonna say, like, I've been thinking about it, and, like, it's gonna be weird. Like we hopefully by the time season 7 comes out, we'll have run for Black Mirror, and then we will be returning to the present with all of the strange knowledge we have of Black Mirror and Charlie Brooker. It's gonna be a weird experience.
Yeah,
and
there's gonna be so much cheating.
God, yeah, like, I don't know. I'm kind of psyched for it.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna lie, I think, at the current point, Black Mirror actually has been getting better. Just not
to be clear, chronologically, not in the way we're viewing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, we're...
I agree, and that is not where I expected it to be coming out of.
Yeah, no, I think Black Mirror has been getting better at a rate that is not sufficient to counteract the deterioration that occurs from looking at it a bit more closer. But like it has been getting better, I think.
Okay.
So that does make me think that season 7 might verge on being good. I think it's going to have like 3 or 4 good episodes if it has like 6 episodes or 5.
That is very generous.
No, I think it's gonna be like half good episodes.
Huh.
I think
I think I guess what is our most positively rated season? It must be season 6 still, right?
Maybe.
Because we have one.
I do have a soft spot for season 5 because it's so short and so
dumb.
It has 2 episodes that I genuinely enjoyed a lot because they were so funny.
Yes. Yeah. That's right.
It's gonna be funny too. Season 7 is gonna be funny.
I think so too, yeah. It's interesting because if I'm running through it in my head, what are the episodes I enjoy the most? I think Demon 79 is probably still up there. I think the second one is Striking Vipers.
Yeah. No, you talked about Striking Vipers with deep contempt before we started this, and now you've been Stockholm Syndrome.
I want to be clear, that contempt is still there, but it's for the core meaning of the episode. The experience of viewing it, very good. But you need to not expect anything from it and just be along for the ride.
Speaking of expectations, after having said it got better, I have now more fear of season 3.
Okay, but before we go to season 3, Bandersnatch, right?
That's right. We're doing Bandersnatch slightly out of sequence.
Yeah, because technically it did come out after season 4, but we're not that organized.
Yeah.
Alternatively, maybe this section right here is going to be cut out and we're going to put Bandersnatch first.
No, if that happens, it's gonna still be here, but Bandersnatch is gonna be first.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, now I almost want to do that just for the in-joke. Anyway, but yeah, I feel like we almost need to plan a bit for Bandersnatch to figure out how to do it, because it's interactive, but I think we can probably figure it out.
We'll see.
Yeah, it'll be a bit of a project.
Yeah, but thank you for listening with us and getting all the way through season 4 of Black Mirror. Next up, Bandersnatch, and we'll see you on the other side.
Yeah, what the hell does Bandersnatch even mean? Anyway, yeah, have a good one, or whatever, viewers. Thank you for coming to the lounge.
And the Bandersnatch was there.